Let's take a look at the airport microservice implementation just for a second. This is very simple. As you can see, we have a controller, and the controller has an airport service, and that airport service is auto-wired to an airport repository. And there's a simple method here called get airports, and all that method does is just forward to the repository's find all method. And if you take a look at the repositories, that's a repository, you can see that what it's got here is public interface, airport repository, extends reactive CRUD repository, and by default that inherits a find all method that will return the results as a flux of airport objects. So the point of this is it's really, really simple to integrate in reactive databases using these mechanisms, just as simple as it is to integrate in the JPA style architecture for more synchronous databases. So that's essentially all there is to the airport controller, the airport application, and the airport service. It's really, really simple, just giving you back a flux to the airport objects. And then likewise, we have the airline, and we talked about that before. And this is also very simple. We have an airport controller, and the airport controller is connected to an airport service, and the airport service is connected to the airline. Sorry, not the airport. The airline service is connected to the airline repository. And then you can see down here that we're just making queries on the repository. So find flights is going to find by departure airport and departure date and arrival airport, passes that information in. Find best price. Find best price calls find flights, so it looks it up in the database, and then it reuses that cheapest price collector we looked at before when we were talking about the flights application gateway, and then returns the flux. And then down here we have find departure dates, and it just goes ahead and looks up and finds the departure dates. Here's the repository. You can see here that it is also a reactive CRUD repository, and it's just got a bunch of methods that essentially are past different parameters. And some of them are very simple lookups by these different parameter fields. Others of them require more complicated queries, which, as you can see here, can be specified using the query annotation such that we're selecting from the flights and so on. And so that just basically does the query declaratively. So it'll go ahead and find all the departure dates that match the query parameters. Then the final piece of the puzzle here, which is also very straightforward, is the Exchange microservice, where we have the Exchange controller, which has an Exchange service. The Exchange service has an auto-wired Exchange repository, and the Exchange repository is used to look up various mappings between currencies to find what their rates are. So this particular one, for example, will return the rate for a given pair of currencies. And then we have get rates and get rate. The only difference is get rate returns 1. So you have a particular rate for a particular from currency and a to currency, whereas get rates takes a to currency and returns a flux of exchange rates. So those are basically the way that the program is implemented. The other thing I really haven't talked a lot about is the various things we have down here, like the model and so on, but that's all pretty straightforward. So if you're curious, you can poke around there. Those are just essentially classes that are annotated with various entity annotations and data annotations and so on and so forth. So hopefully at this point you have a pretty good idea of how the Flights Reactive Microservices app is architected, as well as how it's implemented.